So let's go ahead and get set up here. I'm going to go up here. All right, so I'll start with this set. All right, get myself a fresh piece of paper going here. So when I'm drawing lips, okay, I'm going to draw these fairly large. I think it'll actually, not crazy large, but like, you know, about kind of like what's on the screen. Okay, what I'm paying attention to is, I mean, I draw lips on my characters a lot, so I feel okay about drawing lips. I tend to draw like this part where the kind of, you know, middle dips down. I feel like I'm pretty aware of that. Where I struggle sometimes is more so here where like the lips meet, like the top and bottom meet at the corners. That seems to be an area that I like don't get right. All right, so one thing to notice, and you know, it's not glaringly obvious in this particular image, but in some of my other images that I had pulled up, generally speaking, the upper lip is going to be a little bit darker than the lower lip, and that's generally because like the lower lip's catching a lot of the highlight. Okay, sorry, I'm pressing a little bit like light. I'm gonna make sure you guys can see what I'm drawing here. Okay, so generally like that lower lip's going to catch a little bit more of the highlight, a little bit more of the glares. Okay, what I'm going to do is I am going to separate out where some of like my highlighted points are. So I'm just going to sketch in here kind of like to let myself know to leave some areas white in here. Okay, you don't need to do that, but I'm going to do that for myself. Okay, one thing I noticed as I was drawing this during my second hour painting, drawing, printmaking class was what I tend to do is, at least for drawing lips, which is very different than, say, the nose and eyes, which we've already done, is I tend to make my marks a little bit more to show form, you know, so I kind of almost do like a hatching style when I draw lips, okay, because I need to, because there's a lot of like specific movement, and then I can do some rendering as well, but that's just something for you guys to think about, because there's a lot of texture where, like, I mean, we're drawing these lips very close up, and, you know, as a result of that, we end up kind of seeing like, you know, all like the kind of like little details and nooks and crannies to it, right? So I'm not going to get super obsessed with the teeth. One thing with the teeth I would just suggest is be careful about how defined you make the separation between teeth, because what, you know, what's going on is like if you make that line too defined, it starts looking like this person has chiclets or like little pieces of gum stuck in their mouth, and they don't have teeth. So it looks kind of cartoon character-y, right? All right, so I'm going to do one more drawing of a lips. Okay, so I have this one, which is a little bit more unique because it's got like kind of like the curve thing. So I haven't drawn any like this. So I'm going to do that one. All right, so I'm going to do this one just because I think it's got a little bit more of what we want in terms of demonstration purposes. So, and I like the color a little bit better. It's a little bit more red. The other one was kind of like flushed out pink. So in terms of the colors that I'm using, this is kind of like what I have pulled aside for myself. The pinks, the orange, the tans. I have the browns, you know, to incorporate shadows into. So I'm going to first, I mean, really, like, this is pretty red, these particular lips. So I'm going to start kind of going in right away with my crimson red, right? Now, watch what I start doing, okay? When I go in on this one, I'm going to go more of like a hatching mentality. And so I'm still kind of like controlling pressure, at least to start out with. But when I go in on this one, I'm going to kind of like pull these lines downward to showcase the form of the lips. Okay, so this is almost us going back to the beach ball a little bit. And then this isn't to say that I won't go in at some point here and, like, you know, softly render some stuff, because there are areas in here that are smooth, but not all of them, okay? And there's some texture in there that I want to be able to pull out. Now, I am actively kind of avoiding some of these like white areas, especially up at the top middle here. Okay, but it's almost like little thin like lines that I'm pulling down away from the top of the lip. And I'll go in later and kind of rework that, okay? Do your best to color match, okay? What I'm seeing here is I see some pinks in there, so I'm going to probably go in just with my standard pink. I'm going to sharpen this up a little bit. I'm going to go in and just kind of do the same thing and see how that kind of plays in. I'll probably need to layer the red with it. There's not a lot of pink. It's almost like more orange is what I'm seeing. So I'm probably going to have to pop back in with some orange. But there is a little bit of pink, so more so on this right side here. Okay. This one, it is a little bit more evident too. The level of darkness is more so on the top lip, right? If you squint at my screen right now and you're looking at the image that I'm referencing, you're gonna see that that image of the actual photo of the lips, like the top is a lot darker, the bottom's a lot lighter, and that's just something to think about, something to pay attention to. I think I need a little bit more of an orange color to it. All right. And I am kind of building up a little bit of like pressure now on top here. You know, kind of softly working that in. Okay, I'll probably go back with the red, I think, here in a minute. But I'm going to kind of lay in this poppy red, a little bit more of like an orangish red. I think there might be one other one too in here. Well, you have Tuscan red. I think that might be a little dark. I'll probably, or at least too dark for like right this second. All right, so again, like right now, I feel like this is very, very much like the beach ball. Okay, I'm pulling down my marks. I'm hatching in. I'm not necessarily rendering a lot. Okay, there are areas like we're kind of, you know, this particular drawing of the lips, depending on your image. We're kind of combining a lot of the techniques that we've talked about with color pencil. Hopefully you all are kind of getting better with like color and like being able to decipher and think about stuff. I just switched off and I'm going with my Tuscan red now because I'm kind of using that as like my dark area. Now I'll show you, like, this is a great example of where you can use a complementary color to build up value instead of going in with black. Okay. I'm not saying like you're not going to need black, because you might and you probably will, but it's something you can put off a little bit and use that green. It just creates a little bit more depth, and it keeps that color popping in there a little bit longer, and then you can really just rely on the black for like pure shadow. Yeah, this is actually kind of like a nice set of lips to draw, just because there's a lot of shadow in it. You know, there's a lot of highlight, there's a lot of nice contrast in there. Okay, if you can hear my like mark making, okay, it's you know, I'm tapping the paper, right? I'm kind of hitting this pencil down onto it. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, now this is kind of the tricky part, right? I'm gonna go out on a ledge here. I might even use that. Okay, I'm actually gonna go with my dark green now. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the dark green to build up that value on the left side of the lip. Kind of doing the same thing that I was doing with the red, and I'm kind of like hitting this down a little bit. Okay, I'm okay with having some like lines and marks in there, but check it out. Look at that, that's green mixed in with red. Like, it doesn't look green though, it's a little bit green, but I'm gonna go back in with some other colors to kind of blend it through. But like, I'm creating that shadow just by using those complements, okay? And that's one of the things I really want us thinking about here is, can I get away without using black in areas, right? It's really working on this one, and I kind of knew it would after I really started drawing and thinking about it, like, you know, and it just adds depth to it. It makes it not flatten out. When you use pure black, it flattens out your image a little bit. So, like I said, I'm not saying don't use black. I'm just saying, can you get away with maybe just neutralizing the red a little bit? And again, all these same things that we're talking about apply to every color technique, whether we're using oil pastels, colored pencils, crayons, you know, oil paint, you know, it doesn't matter. These things are all going to be like the same, you know, mentality, same process here. So now some areas like you got to use black sometimes. So like on the teeth, like it's in shadow. I don't want to put red on the teeth, so I'm gonna go with my black pencil there and just do some like subtle value. Okay, now if you were kind of paying attention how I was doing the teeth here, I am being careful. I don't want to really push too much the darkness on the teeth, you know, and the separation line there. Okay, I need it, but it needs to be a little bit more subtle. I maybe even pushed this a little bit too much here, so whatever will make it work. Part of this is looking a little bit weird too because I don't have like the bottom lip in. To be honest with you, that poppy red was really good on my particular image. So if you have a little bit more of like an orange red, I would recommend using that. That ended up working out really well on mine. Okay, coupled with your traditional, what is it, the crimson red. One thing I'm looking at, like this highlight in the middle is really important to kind of leave alone because that does kind of develop a lot of the shape in that bottom lip. Okay, don't worry about doing like the skin or the around the lip. You can kind of ignore that in this one. Like you'll have enough skin to deal with already with the ear, so don't get like bogged down by that. I mean, if you want to, go ahead, but like I'm really just focusing in on the lips in this case. Keep trying to match those colors the best you can. Again, this is kind of like the daily grade, guys. Like, you know, what we're doing here is the thing I want you to post, and I will be grading this. So, like I said, I'm trying to give it, you know, you guys enough time on all these to get them as far as you need to be without having to work outside of class time on these right now. Looks like I need a little pink kind of pop in here. I might burnish out a little bit of the top. You know, you can use the white if you push something too far one way or another too. You can use that white to kind of soften it out or almost erase it out to a certain degree. Same thing if you go like too light, you can go you know, darker the other way. Okay, don't underestimate the importance of like not coloring in areas, because I think like one of the things that's really working about mine right now is that I left some areas, you know, completely white, and that really forces kind of like that illusion of the highlight, right? And it makes it just look that much more rounded. Okay, mine's got a little bit more work to go, but I'm gonna kind of leave it like this. Paying attention to all like the little inner workings and curves, like it is getting cut off here, but I'm gonna make it up a little bit here just to kind of appease myself. All right, and let's see, that flattens out here. Again, it's important. You just got to look at what you're drawing, right? This is kind of like, that's the key, I think, to a lot of things anyway, but in terms of the ears, like you got to look at what's going on. See, I feel like I cut myself off here. Boom, where's that going? It just kind of comes up, comes down. All right. See, I caught myself I got confused in there. Too much going on in that little area. All right, that comes in, perfect. All right, we see this. All right, that looks pretty good, right? Obviously, depending on your ear, you know, my last ear, you know, that's what I ended up going with. You know, they had a lot of really bright areas to it, and so does this one. If you're kind of looking at, I mean, it's different ears, but just in terms of like what you need to add value to, pay attention, because there's a lot of areas here that isn't going to have any color. Same thing with this one, right? There are a lot of areas that were just pure white, very bright because of the highlight. Maybe it's just the image that I tend to like, you know, gravitate towards, has a little bit more contrast. So so going forward here, that's something to think about, right? My browns, my umbers, kind of my yellow ochre colors. I think that's probably good, to be honest. Maybe a little pink in here. It might be even a little bit of like a reddish thing. I'll keep these kind of handy. All right, but I think that's pretty good. Maybe I could even see that red poppy popping in there a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna find, again, like the most general color that I see. I think this one actually looks pretty good. So I'm gonna start kind of going in now. Very, very much opposed to like what we were doing with the ear. Oh, I'm sorry, with the mouth. You know, where we were kind of doing mark making. The ear is a little bit smoother. You don't see as much, to me. You don't see as much of like the curvature because of like marks. Similar to like the, you know, how the lips had cracks, or like you saw kind of like the nooks and crannies of some of those areas. Like you don't see that on the ear. So as I'm going, I'm kind of doing more pressure rendering here, right? I'm kind of like building up these colors. I know I'm going to sit some stuff on top of one another. All right, going back in with my green over top of my reds to get this kind of dark area inside the darkest part of the ear here. I would say this is definitely the darkest part of the ear. And I'm going to go eventually back in with some white to pop out that shadow work. Okay, I probably need to run over some red over this too. You know, just if you lay green in over some like red, or like, you know, to build up a dark color, don't hesitate. Go back in with some red over top. Like you can kind of battle it back and forth. Okay, just because you put it in. I mean, at some point it's probably going to get too waxy and you won't be able to fight it back. But I feel pretty confident right now I can kind of control this. So, I mean, I could use this green here to kind of pump out this little divot. And okay, again, I'm not saying don't use black. Okay, black is fine. Okay, you're going to need it in some spots. I would just use it a little, you know, a little bit less than maybe you think you need to.